The galaxy was loud, bright, and full of proud empires, but on this day, silence spread across the Hellion border as commanders from 9 alien nations gathered inside the Great War Station, each one staring at the hologram in disbelief. A small fleet had appeared on their long-range scanners, so small it almost looked like a mistake. It was shaped like a thin line of dots, barely 60 ships, each one only a fraction of the size of normal war cruisers. The Hellion commanders laughed first, their deep metallic voices echoing through the room. "Is this a joke?" Admiral Kor hissed. "This tiny group dares to enter our territory." Another officer slapped the table. "Send this image across the galaxy, let everyone see how weak their fleet is." But the laughter did not stop with the Hellions. Within minutes, messages arrived from the Zark Dominion, the Varlon Kingdom, the Thousand Eye Coalition, and the proud Arixa Empire, all mocking the tiny armada, all certain it belonged to some forgotten minor species. Only one name did not cross their minds: humanity. Humanity had vanished from the galaxy decades ago after a massive conflict. Some believed humans were extinct, some believed they were too weak to ever rise again, and some thought humans had run away into the dark, never to return. But today, something was different. Inside the war station, Admiral Kor leaned forward and increased the zoom. The tiny ships formed a perfect narrow arrow formation, sharp, straight, and calm. There was no panic in their movement, no fear in their speed. Everything looked planned, disciplined, and deadly. Still, the Hellions laughed. "This is nothing, crush them." But the youngest officer in the room, a silver-scaled strategist named Relka, felt a strange cold sensation inside her chest. Her eyes narrowed as she analyzed the small formation. "There is something wrong," she whispered. "These ships move like veterans." Kor frowned. "Veterans, these toys." But Relka did not look away. She kept staring as the formation slowly advanced, holding steady even against the massive gravitational field surrounding the border. "Sir," she said again, her voice shaking slightly, "no small race, no weak species, no forgotten civilization moves like this." Kor growled, irritated. "What are you saying?" Relka swallowed. "Sir, this looks like human behavior." The entire room went silent. Even the background hum of the engines felt quiet. The hologram flickered softly, casting a blue glow on the shocked faces of the officers. Humans were the one species the galaxy feared, not because of their size or technology, but because of their stubbornness, their unpredictability, their refusal to surrender when logic said they should lose. Humans were chaos shaped into strategy. Kor slammed his metallic claws on the table. "Impossible. Humans disappeared, they cannot return." But Relka pointed at the movement patterns. "Watch the angle of the lead ship," she said. "See how it tilts by half a degree every 12 seconds, that is a human tactic called feather drifting. It keeps formation stable under heavy gravity." Another officer leaned closer, his voice trembling. "The last time we saw that maneuver was during the Ashen War." Kor growled again. "Coincidence?" But then the tiny armada did something that froze every alien soul in the war station. The front ship blinked its lights 3 times in a sharp triangular pattern. The room gasped. "That is human code," Relka whispered, "a greeting to enemies." A greeting. Because humans love to give warnings before delivering destruction. The mocking messages from other empires stopped instantly. No one laughed now, no one dared to. Commanders from across the galaxy stared at the signal in horror. Humanity was not supposed to return. But here they were. In a small, terrifying arrow formation. As the tiny armada moved closer, alien ships began to power up defense shields, but even with all their technology, fear spread like fire. Because everyone knew one truth. When humans returned, they never came empty-handed, they came prepared, focused, unstoppable. Inside the war station, Kor finally gave the order, "Bring the cannons online," he shouted, but his voice shook, "Prepare to fire." But the cannons never got the chance. The tiny human fleet suddenly split into 7 microsquadrons, each one moving like a living creature, twisting, bending, and cutting through space with unnatural precision. No alien fleet had ever moved like this, no alien fleet could. Relka stepped back, her heart pounding. "This is not a small fleet, she whispered, "This is a test." Kor turned to her quickly, "A test?" Relka nodded slowly, fear filling her voice. "Humans are showing us the smallest part of what they have built." The room darkened as the hologram zoomed out even further, revealing something behind the tiny armada, something huge, something waiting in the shadows. The officers froze, unable to speak, unable to breathe. Because behind the tiny spearhead fleet, hidden until now, a massive outline appeared, a giant shape slowly uncloaking. It was a warship so big it could block starlight. A ship that only one species in history had the madness to build. Humanity had not returned weak. They had returned transformed. And the galaxy's mockery was about to end forever. The darkness behind the tiny human armada slowly pulled apart like a curtain, revealing the shape that had been hiding in the shadow of the stars. Every alien commander in the war station felt their throat tighten, their minds struggling to understand what they were seeing. The giant ship emerged inch by inch, but even those inches felt terrifying, because the vessel was unlike anything the galaxy had seen for centuries. It was long, sharp, and covered in black plating that absorbed light instead of reflecting it, as if the ship itself was made from space. No banners, no symbols, no glowing colors, only a single line of pale white markings across the hull, old human writing. Relka's voice trembled as she read it aloud, "Terran Dreadnought, Obsidian Wing." Kor staggered back, a dreadnought, but humanity never built a ship this big. Relka shook her head, not before, but, they had time after they vanished. The dreadnought size became clearer as more of it uncloaked. It was so long that the scanners had to adjust their scale twice, and even then, the ship barely fit on the screen, its wings extended outward like the blades of a giant predator waiting to strike. Alien officers whispered to each other, panic spreading, "How does a small species build something like that?" Another officer muttered, "This is not possible, no empire has the resources for such a monster." But inside the ship, the humans remained silent, calm, steady, watching, waiting, as if they were not the ones facing the galaxy but judging it. Suddenly, the dreadnought powered up a single blue energy line running across its spine. The entire war station vibrated, several alien consoles flickered, their screens struggling to keep up with the power reading. Relka's eyes widened, "That is not a weapon charge." Kor snapped, "Then what is it?" Relka took a slow breath, trying not to shake. "That is a warning pulse. Humans send it before they engage. It means, stand down while you can." But pride was a dangerous thing, and the Helion leaders were full of it. Kor slammed his fist into the armrest. "We will not bow to humans," he roared. "Fire all cannons at the tiny fleet, show them their size means nothing." The Helion war station powered dozens of their giant cannons, the hum of energy filled the air, and the huge metal beams around the station shook as they prepared to fire. The alien crews worked fast, pushing panic aside with arrogance. But as the targeting systems locked onto the tiny human armada, something unexpected happened. The tiny ships began to glow, a faint blue shimmer covering their hulls. Relka gasped, "That is human adaptive shielding." Kor barked, "Shields or not, they are small enough to break in one blast." He never got to finish. The instant the Helion cannons fired, the tiny human ships moved, but not away, not to dodge. They moved forward, directly into the incoming fire, their speed increasing so fast the alien scanners glitched for a moment. A wave of blinding light tore across the battlefield as the cannons fired, but instead of being destroyed, the tiny human ships vanished into the explosion and reappeared on the other side, perfectly unharmed, perfectly aligned, their formation unchanged. Gasps, screams, and confusion filled the war station. Relka whispered, "No, no way, humans can't teleport ships." Another officer stammered, "Did they phase through the blast?" Before anyone could answer, the human armada responded. A ripple moved through the small fleet, every ship turning at the same angle, their cannons aligning with inhuman precision. A moment later, they fired. The beams were thin, almost gentle, but the effect was not gentle at all. The shots pierced the Helion shields like they were made of glass, disabling 5 border satellites instantly. Alarms shrieked as lights flashed red across the station. Kor stumbled forward, "How is this happening?" Relka looked pale. Sir, their technology is not just improved, it is generations ahead. The dreadnought behind the tiny armada finally moved, a slow, deep motion that felt like the universe bending. Its wings spread wider, and the entire battlefield's gravity shifted for a moment, as if the ship controlled space itself. A single human voice echoed across all frequencies, calm, steady, emotionless. This is the Terran Revival Fleet. Every alien officer froze. The voice continued, we offer you one chance to stand down. Kor snarled, do not listen to them, he barked, they are only a fraction of a real fleet. Then the human voice added one more line. One chance, because this is only our scout group. The words hit the aliens harder than any weapon. Officers turned to each other in horror, whispers filling the air. If this is their scout group, what does their main fleet look like? How big is their real dreadnought? What have humans become? The dreadnought's blue energy line pulsed again, stronger this time. Space rippled outward like waves on water. Alien ships lost their balance, their stabilizers failing. Relka stared at the dreadnought with wide, terrified eyes. It is not just a warship, she whispered, it is a warning. And the galaxy finally understood something humans had been trying to say without words. They did not return for revenge. They did not return for territory. They returned to remind the galaxy of one truth. Humanity never stayed small. They only started small. And this tiny armada the galaxy mocked was only the beginning. The battlefield fell into an eerie silence, the kind that did not belong in space, the kind that felt alive, heavy, and watching. Even the stars seemed to dim as the human dreadnought's pulse faded into the void. Inside the Helion war station, panic and disbelief clashed like storms. Officers scrambled between screens, trying to understand what they were facing, trying to find a weakness in the tiny human armada or the giant dreadnought behind it, but every scan returned the same answer. No vulnerabilities detected. Relka's fingers shook as she typed commands, her silver scales reflecting the flickering lights of warning signals. Sir, every system we use to predict enemy movement is failing. Kor leaned over her shoulder, his voice cracking, what do you mean failing? Relka swallowed, human ships keep breaking prediction models, their patterns are alive. The tiny human vessels moved as if connected by one mind, every shift, every angle, every glide was synchronized, not by computers but by something deeper, something that no alien algorithm could decode. And then it happened. The dreadnought sent out a second pulse, not a warning this time but a data flash. The alien screens flickered and filled with thousands of unreadable lines, symbols humans used only in wartime. Some officers gasped, others backed away as if the symbols could burn through the screens. What is this? Kor shouted. Relka's voice was barely a whisper, it is a human battle language, only their commanders use it. Another officer trembled, but why show it to us? Relka stared at the screen, her eyes going wide, because they are sending instructions, and not to us. Kor blinked, confused, instructions to who? Before Relka could answer, the tiny human armada split again, into 30 small groups this time, each cluster glowing with blue flame-like light. Every alien commander stared in horror. What are they doing now? The answer appeared on the scanners, impossible but real. Human unmanned drones. Thousands of them, unarmed but moving faster than any ship in the galaxy, shot out from beneath the dreadnought's wings like a swarm of silver arrows. Relka gasped loudly, this is a joint maneuver, humans are coordinating real pilots with AI drones. Kor's voice cracked, no one has ever mastered that, it requires impossible precision. Relka looked up at him slowly, sir, humanity did. The drones flooded the battlefield in perfect spirals, weaving between the small human ships, forming new shapes, patterns, shields, walls, traps. The galaxy had laughed at the tiny armada. But now they realized the truth. The tiny armada was only the foundation. The real weapon was the unity between human pilots and their machine allies. Suddenly, the dreadnought opened a communication channel again, but this time, the voice carried emotion, quiet and controlled. "This is Captain Aiden Stryker of the Terran Revival Fleet." Every alien species across the listening sectors froze. Human names had not echoed across the galaxy in a long time. The voice continued. "We did not return to start a war." A pause, a calm breath. "But we will finish one if forced." The Helion War Station shook as Kor slammed his fist in rage. "Do not believe their lies, they are threatening us." But Relka whispered something that silenced the entire bridge. "No, sir, they are warning us because something bigger is coming." Kor turned sharply. What could be bigger than that dreadnought? Relka stared at the drones forming a giant circle around the tiny armada, her eyes widening. "Look at their formation, look carefully." Kor squinted at the scanner. "What am I looking at?" Relka's voice cracked. "They are forming a barrier, not to trap us, but to protect themselves." A sudden wave of dread rushed through the room. Officers looked at each other, their minds racing. Why would humans shield themselves? From what? From who? As if answering their fears, the dreadnought began to broadcast a massive energy pattern, a frequency so deep it shook every ship nearby. Alien engines flickered, screens warped, and the floor trembled under their feet. One officer screamed, "What is happening?" Another shouted, "Our stabilizers are collapsing." Relka stared at the hologram of space rippling behind the dreadnought, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something is coming through." Kor backed away slowly. Coming through what? Relka turned to him, her eyes terrified. The void. Space tore open behind the human dreadnought. A black rift twisted into existence, spiraling like a wounded galaxy. And then something stepped out. A ship larger than the dreadnought, older, darker, more ancient than any design known in the galaxy. Its hull carried scars that looked millions of years old. Its wings were shaped like broken obsidian claws. Its engines pulsed like beating hearts. And across its front, in fading white paint, one word was written in old Terran letters. Archangel. Silence drowned the war station. Every alien officer felt their body freeze. Relka fell to her knees. Her voice broke as she whispered the name. The Archangel class, humanity's myth, the ship that was said to disappear into the void itself. Kor staggered, unable to speak. If the tiny fleet was terrifying, if the dreadnought was impossible, then the Archangel was something else entirely. A legend that should never have returned. A ghost that belonged to the forgotten age of human war gods. Yet here it was. Awakening in front of them. Silent, massive, unstoppable. And it was not alone. Space behind it flickered again. As if more things were waiting to step through. Humanity had not just returned. They brought their oldest nightmares with them. And the galaxy finally understood that mocking the tiny armada had been the greatest mistake in its history. Because the humans who vanished long ago had come back as something far more dangerous. Far more united. Far more evolved. They did not return as survivors. They returned as legends. The Archangel drifted out of the void like a sleeping titan waking after 1,000 years, its dark hull absorbing the starlight around it, making every nearby ship look small and fragile. Even the human dreadnought looked like a child standing beside an ancient warrior. Inside the Helion War Station, no one breathed, no one spoke, no one dared to move. The scanners kept blinking red, confused and terrified, unable to measure the Archangel's true size or power. Relka's hands trembled as she zoomed in on the ancient Terran writing on the ship's front. "Sir, this is an original Archangel-class vessel." Kor stared, unable to understand. That ship vanished 8 decades ago. Relka nodded slowly, yes, and it was believed to be lost forever. But the Archangel was not lost. It had gone somewhere deeper. Somewhere no alien species ever reached. And now it had returned. Space crackled again as the void rip behind the Archangel remained open, glowing like a deep wound in the universe. The human dreadnought moved aside respectfully, almost as if bowing, and the tiny armada formed two perfect symmetrical lines, a corridor of honor. The galaxy realized something horrifying. Humans were not just returning with power. They were returning with history. With ghosts. With every weapon they ever built. A voice echoed across all channels, deeper, older, heavier than any voice the aliens had ever heard. "This is Commander Mara Thorne of the Archangel." Relka jerked her head up in shock. Mara Thorne, she disappeared with the ship. Kor frowned, she should be dead by now. Relka whispered, not if the void kept them frozen in time. The voice continued. To all alien forces, the Terran Revival Fleet is not here to conquer. Silence. Nor to destroy. More silence. We are here to stop what follows us. The entire war station shook as those words sank in. Follow them. What could follow humans from the void? What could force legends like the Archangel to return? But before anyone could ask, the scanners started to scream. A new energy signature appeared inside the rift behind the Archangel. Then another. Then another. Relka's voice broke, multiple unknown forms approaching, no records, no match, no identity. Kor shouted, "Are they human ships?" Relka shook her head violently, her silver scales paler than ever. "No sir, those are not human." The rift flashed violently as a giant shadow moved behind the Archangel. The battlefield trembled. Even the human dreadnought's shields flickered. And for the first time since humanity returned, the tiny armada tightened formation, not as a show of strength but as a shield. A voice, this time from the dreadnought's captain, echoed across the battlefield. All units, defensive posture. Human ships repositioned instantly. Drones formed walls. The Archangel charged its front cannons. The dreadnought spread its wings. Relka whispered, "Humans are afraid." Those words alone sent a cold shiver through every alien soul. If humanity feared something. If a species known for madness, bravery, and stubbornness felt fear. Then whatever was coming was beyond comprehension. The Hellion officers panicked, closed the border shields. Send reinforcements. Retreat. Everything dissolved into chaos. But none of their commands mattered. Because the void ripped wider. And the thing following the Archangel finally stepped out. It was not a ship. Not in any shape known to the galaxy. It was a mass of twisting black metal tendrils, a living machine that bent space around it like cloth. Its surface glowed with strange runes. Its presence distorted time. And every scanner trying to study it short-circuited instantly. Relka fell backward, her voice cracking. That is a void-born construct." Kor shouted, "What is that?" Relka stared in horror. A creature made from dying stars and machine evolution, humans once fought them at the edge of the universe. The construct let out a sound, not heard through speakers, not heard by ears. A vibration that passed directly through every ship and every mind. Alien officers clutched their heads. Lights shattered. Metal walls cracked. The tiny human armada did not move. They held their line. They faced the construct with no hesitation. The Archangel charged its main cannon. A beam of white light, older than any alien history, formed at its core. The dreadnought joined it. Then the tiny armada followed. Dozens of smaller beams aligning in a perfect, beautiful pattern. For the first time in centuries. Human unity shined brighter than the stars. Commander Mara Thorne's voice thundered across the battlefield. To all alien forces, stand down. Her voice was steel. We are not your enemy. A pause, heavy and final. But if you mock our size again, remember this day. Her voice grew even colder. Even our smallest fleet stands against monsters your empires cannot imagine. The construct spread its tendrils, preparing to strike. And humanity, the species the galaxy once laughed at. Stood ready, unbroken. Not to wage war against the galaxy, but to protect it. Because humans did not just fight for themselves. They fought for anyone who stood behind them. And this time, the galaxy stood behind them for the first time. The Battle of the Void was about to begin. And the galaxy finally understood why mocking humans was a mistake. Because humanity's true strength was never their numbers, size, or ships. It was their refusal to let fear win. And fear was coming. Straight from the void. Straight for all of them. The battlefield shook as the Voidborn construct unleashed a wave of distorted energy, a roar made of twisting metal and collapsing reality. The shockwave ripped through space, bending starlight and tearing apart abandoned satellites like paper. Alien ships screamed across the scanners, alarms howling like wounded creatures, but the tiny human armada did not move back, not even a little. They held their line, firm and calm, glowing with the blue light of their adaptive shields. Behind them, the human dreadnought expanded its wings until they stretched across the battlefield like a steel horizon. Its engines pulsed in deep rhythm, matching the heartbeat of the Archangel beside it. Inside the Hellion War Station, officers struggled to remain standing as tremors ran through the metal floor. Relka clung to the console, her voice trembling as she watched the construct twist its body into horrifying shapes. "Sir, this thing is not attacking only physically. It is attacking through gravity, time, and space." Kor growled, fear finally appearing on his face. "But why humans? Why did this thing follow them?" Relka looked at him, her eyes full of grim certainty. "Because humans fought them before, and humans won." The construct lunged forward, ripping the void open wider, and space itself screamed. It struck like a giant spear of living darkness, slashing toward the tiny armada. But the human drones reacted instantly, forming a three-layered spiral shield, glowing bright enough to blind every scanner across the region. The construct's tendrils smashed into the shield, sending shockwaves across hundreds of kilometers. The drones shattered one by one. But every piece they left behind turned into floating mines. And every mine exploded into controlled bursts of energy, slowing the construct down by fractions of seconds. Those fractions were enough for humans. The dreadnought's wings glowed with pure white energy. The Archangel's ancient cannons hummed louder than any sound ever heard in space. The tiny human ships aligned their guns in a sharp arrow shape. Commander Mara Thorne's voice echoed like a war drum. "All units, prepare for synchronized strike." Her voice was steady. Her will unbroken. No tremor, no fear. Only purpose. Only resolve. Alien officers watched in disbelief as the human fleet shifted from defense to attack without hesitation. No other species reacted with such unity. Such madness. Such courage. Such humanity. The construct roared again, bending a nearby moon into a shattered arc of debris, the pieces spinning toward the battlefield like glowing knives. The tiny human armada scattered instantly, weaving between the falling fragments with impossible precision. One ship spun sideways, riding the shockwave of a fragment to gain extra momentum. Another dodged a burning meteor by flipping upside down and sliding beneath it. The human fleet moved like a living storm, every motion sharp, lethal, beautiful. Relka could not look away. She whispered, "Humans dance with death, and somehow the universe dances with them." The Archangel fired first. A beam of ancient Terran energy shot through space, white and blinding, the kind of energy born from old wars no alien empire ever understood. The construct shrieked as the beam carved a burning wound in its tendrils. The dreadnought fired next. Its wings unleashed waves of blue light that twisted and bent around the construct, trapping parts of it inside gravity locks. The monster struggled, its tendrils flailing, breaking space with every movement. Then the tiny armada attacked. Dozens of small ships unleashed a coordinated volley, every shot landing precisely on the construct's wounds. The battlefield lit up like a supernova. Alien fleets watching from afar trembled. They had mocked humans. They had underestimated humans. They had treated humans like small, weak, insignificant beings. But now they saw the truth. Humans were not strong because of their size or their ships. Humans were strong because they refused to kneel. The construct lunged again, this time targeting the Archangel directly. Its tendrils wrapped around the ancient ship. Black energy began to crush the Archangel's armor, cracking it like old bone. Relka gasped, "The Archangel cannot break free." Kor shouted, "Then humanity will fall today." But humanity did not fall. Humanity never fell without rising again. The tiny armada changed formation instantly. The human dreadnought moved forward, blocking the construct's attack. Its wings locked into a shield posture, glowing brighter than any sun. "Obsidian wing, hold the line," the captain commanded. And the dreadnought did. It held the construct back with pure force. Its armor tearing, engines burning, but it did not move. Then something extraordinary happened. Human communications opened across the galaxy. Relka's screen showed hundreds of human voices speaking as one. Not in fear. Not in anger. But in unity. The Archangel freed its cannons. The dreadnought stabilized its wings. The tiny armada realigned, forming a perfect spear of light. And all humanity, every ship, every drone, every engine, spoke the same command. Fire. The battlefield exploded with light. White from the Archangel. Blue from the dreadnought. Gold from the tiny armada. The combined blast pierced the construct's core. Its tendrils spasmed. Its voice shattered into broken echoes. Its body folded in on itself. And the monster of the void died. Silent and defeated. Its ashes scattering into the darkness. The battlefield calmed. The rift closed. The stars brightened again. The tiny armada floated quietly. The dreadnought powered down its wings. The Archangel dimmed its ancient glow. And for the first time since the battle began, the galaxy breathed. Commander Mara Thorne spoke one last time. To all alien empires. A pause. Let today remind you. Her voice was steady. Size does not define strength. Another pause. Unity does. The tiny human armada, the same one the galaxy mocked, glowed softly in victory. And the galaxy finally understood the message humanity had carried from the void. Humans do not need to be many to be powerful. Humans do not need to be large to be unstoppable. Even the smallest human fleet can change the fate of the stars. And anyone who mocks them, learns this truth too late. Humanity stood not as a small race, but as a shield. As a warning. As a legend reborn. And the galaxy would never forget it.